Hello, welcome to my channel. I'm going to be reading or telling you creepy stories that might keep you up at night. I love the paranormal and the spiritual world and everything that has to go with that. So if that's up your alley, then welcome. Okay, Florida devil worshipping. Friends noticed that Danielle Harkins, a 35-year-old school teacher near St. Petersburg, Florida, started acting strangely in June of 2012, developing an interest in demonic rituals. Soon after, she was arrested for abuse of 7 of her former students. As the Tampa Bay Times reported, Danielle Harkins told the kids they needed to rid their bodies of demons. As the group gathered before dusk Saturday around the small fire near St. Petersburg Pier, they should cut their skin to let the evil spirits out. So she's telling these kids that they need to be around the fire and cut their skin to let evil spirits out. Police said that she told the children then they needed to burn the wound to ensure that these spirits would not return. I don't know how they would do that, but they would cut their arm, let the blood out, and then burn that wound. And I guess close it for the evil spirits not to be able to come back in. When Harkins held a lighter to one teen's hand, wind blew the flames out, and police said that prompted her to douse his hand in perfume before setting it on fire. Oh my God. The boy suffered second-degree burns, police said. Another teen was cut on the neck with a broken bottle. Harkins used a flame to heat a small key, which she then used to cauterize the wound. She was an evil person. The police were notified because a friend of one of the students who participated in the rituals raised alarms. However, none of the students themselves told their parents about the event and would comment, or they didn't comment about the event that happened with their teacher. And the teacher was arrested for aggravated battery and child abuse. Good for her. Investigations said they've spoken to Harkins, but she didn't spell out what type of religion would require such drastic measures, so she's probably just trying to abuse kids. She hasn't informed them exactly what she was trying to accomplish by doing this to the kids, and that was that. So that's a creepy teacher right there. Here's the story of Elisa Lam. Elisa Lam was last seen on January 31st, 2013, in the lobby of the Cecil Hotel in downtown Los Angeles. She was vacationing through the West Coast, documenting the trip on her blog and checking in with her parents every day. On January 31st, those calls stopped. Lam had vanished. Soon the police were involved, and her parents arrived to help with the search. They had nothing. That February, the LAPD released elevator surveillance footage of Lam before her disappearance. So this was the last footage they had of her, and they did not have any footage of her leaving the hotel. It shows Lam behaving strangely in the elevator, appearing to talk to invisible people, peering around the corner of the door, crouching in the corner and opening and closing the door of the elevator. But what exactly is going on in this video raises more questions than answers. Theories range from psychotic episodes to demonic possessions to unknown assailants just out of her reach, out of the camera's view. Maybe someone was chasing her. Around that time, hotel guests started reporting weird, strange happenings with the Cecil Hotel water supply. And the shower, one of the residents said that the shower was awful. There was like a pink residue coming through there. The water was coming black first for 2 seconds, and it would go back to normal, and it tasted horrible. It had a very funny, sweet, disgusting taste. It had a strange taste. They can barely describe how nasty it was. But for a week, they never complained. We never thought anything of it, they said. And they thought it was just the way the hotel was. But on the morning of February 19, a hotel employee climbed up to the roof and used a ladder to investigate the hotel's storage tanks, the water storage tanks. That's where authorities found the decomposing naked body of Lam, whose personal items was found nearby. After an autopsy, Her death was labeled an accident. I think it was a murder, but okay. NBC Los Angeles reported at the time about the strange circumstances in the hotel's past. The tank has a metal latch that can be opened, but authorities said access to the roof is secured with an alarm and a lock. The single-room occupancy hotel has an unusual history. They have Night Stalker Richard Ramirez, who was found guilty of 14 killings in the 1980s, lived on the 14th floor for several months in 1985. An international serial killer, Jack Unterweger, is suspected of murdering 3 prostitutes during the time that he lived in the Cecil Hotel in 1991. He then killed himself in jail in 1994. In 1962, a female occupant jumped out of one of the hotel's windows, killing herself and a pedestrian on whom she landed. So it looks like this hotel has a lot of negative energy and it's just cursed, but I think there's more to the story of this girl. I watched a whole documentary about how someone could have been chasing her, or she wasn't mentally stable. They took advantage of that, and because why would she be naked, face down in the water up on the roof with the latch shut after her locked, That's very suspicious. Okay, so here's the exorcism in Indianapolis. This is the story of an exorcism. Okay, so the Indianapolis Star published a lengthy report on a family terrorized by 3 children allegedly that possessed demons. They were being possessed by demons. The account of Latoya Almond and her family tells disturbing stories of children climbing up the walls, getting thrown across rooms, and children threatening doctors in deep, unnatural voices. It would seem like something straight out of a movie, a work of fantasy, except that these accounts were real. And they were corroborated with nearly 800 pages of official records obtained by the Indianapolis Star and recounted in more than a dozen interviews with police, DCS personnel, psychologists, family members, and a Catholic priest. One of the more chilling sections of the reports includes a segment about the possessed 9-year-old. So, according to his Washington original DCS report, an account corroborated by a nurse, by Walker, the nurse, the 9-year-old had a weird grin and walked backwards up a wall to the ceiling. He then flipped over Campbell, landed on his feet. He flipped over somebody, jumped over flipping. He landed on his feet, and he never let go of his grandmother's hand. That's a strange occurrence. Another thing that happened was that a 12-year-old would later tell mental health professionals that she sometimes felt as if she was being choked and held down so she couldn't speak or move. She said she heard a voice say she'd never see her family again and wouldn't live another 20 minutes. That's really scary. Okay. So here's I'm pretty disappointed in this story because it doesn't give a lot of details. But it looks like it was successful. These kids were successfully cured from that. Here's a story about a Utah murder-suicide. In September of 2014, a Utah teen returned to his home to find his parents and 3 siblings dead. In a notebook, a to-do list had been scribbled on the pages. The list looked as if the parents were readying to go on a vacation. Items such as feed the pets and find someone to watch after the house were written down. The Salt Lake Tribune reported, it happened to be murder-suicide, but there was no suicide note, no prior indication that they would do this, and no explanation. The police could not figure out why 2 parents would kill themselves and their 3 kids. For a year, no one knew exactly what happened to the family, or what would drive the parents to do such a thing. In January, the police released more chilling details. into the case. According to accounts from family members and an investigation by police, the parents were driven by a belief that the apocalypse was coming and an obsession with a convicted killer. And the friends and family told police that the parents were worried about the evil in the world and wanted to escape pending apocalypse, but most assumed they just wanted to move somewhere else, off the grid. Investigators also found letters written by Christy Strack, to one of the state's most infamous convicted killers, Dan Lafferty, who was convicted in the 1984 fatal stabbing of his sister-in-law and her 1-year-old baby daughter. According to trial testimony, he killed the victims at the order of his brother, Ron Lafferty, who claimed to have had a revelation from God. The story became a book called Under the Banner of Heaven. Police said Christy Strack became friends with Dan Lafferty, so these parents became friends with this murderer, and they visited him in prison even. Can you imagine that? And it looks like that's what they did. That was their whole thing. That's so strange. Okay, here's a story about a phone stalker. In 2007, ABC News documented a series of cell phone calls to families with terrifying specific death threats. The unidentified callers knew exactly what the families were doing at the time and what they were wearing. The families say that the calls came at all hours of the night, threatening to kill their kids and the pets and the grandparents. Voicemails arrived playing records of their private conversations, including one with local police detective. The caller knows this police detective. The caller knows the family said that what they were wearing, what they were eating, where they were sitting, what they were doing, and after months of investigation, the police seemed powerless to stop these calls. This went on with the Koikenel family for months, who reported a caller with a scratchy voice threatening to slit their throats. When the first Firecrest, Washington police tried to find the culprit, the calls were traced back to the Koikendel's own phones, even when they were turned off. Now that is creepy. So apparently the people that are calling them to threaten to kill them are using the phone lines of this family. How can they do that? It got worse. The Koikendals and 2 other Farcist families told ABC News that they believe that the callers are using their cell phones to spy on them. They say the hackers know their every move, where they are, and what they're doing, and what they're saying. And the callers have recorded private conversations. The families and the police said this, including a meeting with local detectives. So it looks like nobody caught the phone stalker. That's how the story ends. That's creepy. Okay, one more story and then I'll let you go. Here's a story about the Watcher. After moving into a $1.3 billion dream home, a New Jersey family started receiving creepy death threats from someone who identified themselves as the Watcher, as CBS News reported earlier this year. Since moving in, the owners said that they had received numerous letters from a mysterious person, the Watcher, as they call themselves. They claim that their home has been subject of my family for decades, and I have been put in charge of watching and waiting for its second coming, Castro reported. The new owners had several children, and other letters asked, "Have you found out what's in the walls yet? And I am pleased to know your names now and the names of the young blood you have brought to me." The family was forced to flee from their home and later filed a lawsuit against the previous owners. Oh my god, so scary. Anyhow, I hope it wasn't too boring, and have a good night. Sleep well.